I don't know what people are so anxious about or think is taking too long. Like, force what change? Like, force what? Like, what outcome are they looking for? Like, what do they want to happen? I mean, Bitcoin's up, whatever, 1,000,000%, right? Like, I mean, what is it that they want? Like, what change are they trying to bring? Now, I'd love it if we went back to a sound money standard. That'd be great. So I guess I'd love to see that happen. I think it'd be really good for society to be on a sound money standard. However, if we switch to a hard money standard tomorrow, it would be catastrophic. It'd be catastrophic. So we can't just switch to that. So, like, what are they trying to achieve, right? I think at the end of the day, I try to remind people, which sounds very controversial, is that we don't want money. Nobody wants money. What we want is the goods and services that money buys us. Money is a medium of exchange. It's a storehold of wealth, store of energy, and it's a medium of exchange, allows us to get the things that we want, the true wealth, the goods and services, and it sets a unit of account, so it puts a number or a way to measure that wealth and that value. Ultimately, whether it's dollars or euros or yens or gold or chickens or Bitcoin, what difference does it make? What I want is goods and services. What I want is the quality of my life to improve. And so I need my money to buy me more goods and services in the future than less. And of course, Bitcoin is a way to preserve that purchasing power, because with fiat currency, it fails. So most of us, and it was a broad question, I'm not sure how to classify this, but for those people who are like ready to see this change brought in, good, then move to Bitcoin. Use Bitcoin as your unit of account right now. Most of the world are seeing prices getting so expensive that they're being priced out of houses. They're being priced out of cars. The quality of their life is going down. They can't afford the same amount of goods and services they used before, but that's only if you're pricing things in dollars. If you're pricing things in Bitcoin, it's a completely different world for you. One of my favorite macro analysts, Luke Grauman, had tweeted yesterday how he has sons, and that they would probably never be able to afford a house. And he said, but his oldest son has been taking all of his money that he's made through high school, paper routes, all the things, and put it into Bitcoin. And now with Bitcoin where it's at today, he has enough US dollar valuation where he could go buy a house. So because his son has been saving in Bitcoin as his unit of account, homes have gotten cheaper for his son to the point where he can afford one today. Had his son been on a dollar standard saving in dollars, he would never be able to afford the house. And so the point is this world that people want to have ushered in, like, you could just switch to that world right now. And I think this is a key piece. Earlier today, I was sort of going back and forth with Whitney Webb on Twitter of a couple things. And she said, but Mark, all change comes from the bottom up, decentralization, which of course I agree. So you and I can just go usher in that world right now. We can move ourselves to a Bitcoin standard and achieve that. I do, again, want for society, I believe it would be beneficial to be on a fixed money standard, but I understand that's going to take a long period of time. Back to sort of the other part of the question that you asked is then, if we really want to see that world brought in, then what are we actively doing for that? And I think that's kind of where you talked about like the hodling piece, where a lot of Bitcoiners are hodlers now. They're holding, right? They're saving their wealth there, but they think that they can just go disappear on a hill. I'm going to hold my, whatever it is, 6.15 Bitcoin, and I'm going to emerge out of my cave in 50 years from now, and the whole world's going to be better. But it's not going to be better unless people actually do the work. Because what you're doing is you may emerge and maybe have more purchasing power, but how is the world going to be any better if no one's actually doing anything to improve the world? What I say at conferences when I speak is like, hey, you guys are the hardcore Bitcoiners, right? You guys are the Bitcoin maximalists. Yeah, cool. So if you're not going to do it, then who is? Like you're going to expect BlackRock to go build that world for you? And so, one of the hashtag sayings that I've been trying to use and kind of get to go a little viral is build or be built. And that's we either build the world that we want, or someone else will build it for us, and we're just not going to be happy with that. I'm probably not going to be happy in a world that Mark Cuban designed for me. I'm probably not going to be happy in a world that Obama designed for me. I'm not going to be happy in a world that Larry Fink designed for me. But if I do nothing, that's what I get. And so as Bitcoiners, we should be actively building the world that we want. And we have a perfect example of this right now, Brandon. Think about what just happened with the election. There's so many moving pieces. I don't want to say the most important, but arguably one of the single most important data points is Twitter. If it wasn't for Twitter and free speech, I don't think we would be here today with the blow to globalism and Trump in office. By having one outlet that allowed us to have this open communication, it moved the Overton window in a couple of ways. Number one, it changed the entire discourse and communication that we have. Number two, even look at the change that Mark Zuckerberg has gone through with Facebook because of what Twitter is doing, right? And there was a lot of shenanigans going down on election day. And a lot of them might have been able to get away with, except for Twitter was there and people were on the ground putting up photos and videos in real time. And even if, and I don't want to get into this, conspiratorial talk, but even if, let's just say hypothetically, a judge was corrupt and said, hey, yeah, let them play those shenanigans, they didn't have the chance because it was live on social for everyone to see. In 2020, they couldn't do that. Now, the reason why I talk about that is because an entrepreneur, arguably maybe the best entrepreneur of our time, Elon Musk, took some of his money, what is it? I don't know, $46 billion or whatever, and bought Twitter. And it's now worth, they say it's worth 18 billion. So he's lost tens of billions of dollars buying this. But he put his money at risk, potentially losing some of his money as a revolutionary in order to build the world that he wanted, in order to bring that. He said that he thinks that free speech is one of the most important aspects of our life. And he put his money where his mouth is and potentially pulled the country out of the clutches of the communists, at least for another 4 years. I think that's a perfect example for us. It's the entrepreneurs, it's the builders, the doers that drive the world forward, not the parasitic political class. But if we as entrepreneurs and if we as Bitcoiners and true believers are not going to actively do that and sacrificing some of our money, sacrificing some of our time, our effort, our energy, our focus, whatever it is, then we're going to get what we get. We're going to have a world built by Bill Gates and Larry Fink and whoever and Mark Cuban, and we're going to be happy with that.
Do you think the legacy media? So the big thing is legacy media is dead. Legacy media is dead because of this. Do you think Joe Rogan is the debate stage in 4 years from now? Like how do you see this shift, this evolution, I guess, over the coming years here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. So right off the bat, if we start from a super high level, as a content creator, right, as somebody who's on all the social media platforms and YouTube, et cetera, I can already see this massive shift happening, and it continues to shift. It's been shifting and continuing. And really what we're starting to see right now today more than ever, and AI sort of helped escalate this, is that there's really this movement to go back to like raw, behind the scenes footage, and a lot of the overly polished, overly edited stuff is not doing as good. And it's because people are looking for authenticity and realness, and they don't want that overly polished fake image anymore. And so that's just across social media as a whole. But then when you extend that out, so that's sort of like what Whitney Webb says, from the bottom up. But as you extend that up, so not top down, but up, then that goes to like a Joe Rogan, right? So Joe Rogan sits down for 3-hour interviews, and just like, let's just riff, man. Let's just wrap it out. Let's just talk. The one interview I watched him doing with JD Vance, he was having like all these technical issues, like his mic stopped working. He kept bumping it. He climbed under the desk, and I was like, why didn't they edit this out? Like, why do they show that? But that's how raw that is, right? And really what we saw was, yes, a changing of the media, but again, it's driven by the way that we consume or desire to consume the media. But really what I see, and again, being a content creator is, and someone who sells in the digital market space, we've seen sort of almost the death of paid ads. And now if you don't create organic content, like your brand, your product, your course, it's never going to make it. Paid ads now are primarily being used as like a little bit of extra fire for the organic content. But really what you're doing is you're taking the best people are taking the organic content that works and just putting a little bit of money behind it to boost it, if you will. But paid ads are just not doing like they used to. And really what we saw that on a global stage, right? So the Kamala campaign spent $1 billion, and they had to pay for their advertising, right? So they had to pay for their celebrity endorsements. They had to pay for all their TV ads and online ads, because Kamala couldn't go create any organic content. She refused to go on shows. She did one interview, I believe. It was on whatever that talk show was, or that podcast. She wouldn't go on shows. She did a couple CNN, whatever, but then they had to edit it way down, right? So an hour interview, they got 18 minutes out of it. And so all that was paid. Whereas the Trump campaign was all organic. Trump was just doing campaigns all day. He'd go on any show that wanted him. He would go on 3-hour shows, right? And I think that was really the difference of the organic versus the paid. It shows the difference in content creation. It shows the difference in, like I said, authenticity and truth, if you will. I don't know if truth is the right word, but at least authenticity. And I think it's a big cultural shift. And sort of to answer the question, to summarize it, I think we have seen alternative news sites like what we're doing here, like obviously Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Russell Brand, et cetera. We've been seeing that gaining, and really it seemed like it had overtaken mainstream, or what we call now legacy media, even in 2020. But I think this was probably the defining moment where no matter how much money they spent on legacy media, they could not overcome what the organic content did.
people still, obviously, they look at leaders, they look at, whatever it is, huge wealth leaders or politicians. And humans always do that. We can see that in the Bible, right? With King David, we want a king. And, so how do you kind of delineate where to kind of put your attention in a way, educating the masses, or is it converting the king? Like, how do you delineate that? If you want the answer to that question right there, and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Good luck.